For more on the political fallout, I'm now joined by Ibrahim Dean, who's from the Afro-Middle East Center via Skype. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a bit of a mess, isn't it? I mean, it's turning out to be a bigger global issue that has to do with diplomatic relations, not only with Turkey, not only in the region, but also with the U.S. and possibly for us as a country, South Africa.
I think, thanks for having me. Yes, I mean, what the Saudi regime or kingdom didn't, calculate is that, basically murdering a guy, whether it's by rogue elements or not, and it's more likely not, would engender such consequences. I think they thought, because there was very little criticism of the Qatari blockade, there's very little criticism of the war in Yemen, of the kidnapping of, Prime Minister Saad Hariri in Lebanon last year. They thought there wouldn't be much consequences. However, what's happened is, the outrage has been a lot, especially from, not just states with a not so warm relationships such as Turkey, but other European countries. And I think this has meant that, the Saudis have been struggling to keep up with the story and to get ahead of the story. And, initially they talked about him already going out of the embassy. But, the stories that they have come up with has a lot of holes, which kind of shows that it was done very amateurishly, with not enough planning or not enough proper planning, mainly because of Mohammed bin Salman's, inexperience at the helm.
Ibrahim, there's a context to all of this, to the comments that you make, that they thought they could get away with it without any consequences because of what the Saudis have been able to get away with over the last few years, if not decades. And part of the story there has to do with Saudi Arabia's relationship with the United States, doesn't it?
Yes, I mean, the Saudi Arabia's, the key protector of the Saudi regime is actually the United States. And so without the United States, I mean, yes, Donald Trump was exaggerating a few weeks ago when he said the kingdom will only last 2 weeks. But, the United States' support is necessary. And what happened in March 2017, just last year, Mohammed bin Salman met with, Donald Trump. Ahead of the then Crown Prince Mohammed bin Naif, and they basically struck up this relationship. And so, the Sauds, the U.S. has been silent on most of the actions that Mohammed bin Salman has taken, even though many of them are actually counter to U.S. interests. The Trump administration sees Saudi Arabia as this key market for its weapons, as a key, hub for investments and a key investor. And also, Donald Trump has business interests in Saudi Arabia. And so, these have meant that he's actually taken a stance that has been counter to many, to what many within the administration have actually said, and, emboldened Mohammed bin Salman to do whatever he's doing. And so, there is reports that Mohammed bin Salman, for example, asked Jared Kushner a few weeks ago, why is there so much, what's the fuss about? Basically because he believed that the U.S. support would ensure that he would, be able to withstand the criticism, and it's not abating.
So, Ibrahim, let's bring it back home then, South Africa. How do we play this one? I mean, we are out there seeking all sorts of investment. $100 billion is the target. Earlier on this year, President Ramaphosa gets a commitment from the Saudis of a good 140 billion rand in terms of investment. There's talk about Denel being somewhere in the mix and a proposal there. And then this comes up. What do we do with the investment summit coming up this week?
I think there's two things when we talk about the investments. I think one is we need to be very wary of the normal commitments, the 140 billion rand commitments, especially, where it is going, what is the Saudi agendas in it. There is much people who talk about what we call national interest vis-a-vis human rights, and I don't think it's something that is an either or. I think our strength as South Africa, at least in the past 20 years, has been because our foreign policy, at least, is premised on more human rights. And so I think, as South Africa, we need to be a lot more critical, a lot more wary of investments from abroad. And we need to, we look at the Durko statement, it was very mild. So I think we need to be more assertive. And I think we do not need to only think that we are, like beggars in the situation. We do have some influence, some power, and we can exercise this power. I think in terms of Denel, we do have to be extremely wary because, President Zuma, former President Zuma, opened up an arms factory or inaugurated an arms factory in Saudi Arabia a few years ago. And it does seem as if, arms manufactured, for example, in that factory would be able to counter or run contrary to the Act, the NCACA, the National Conventional Arms Control Act.
Isn't it? It's a bit of a moral conundrum, isn't it? Thank you so much there. That is Ibrahim Dean of the Afro Middle East Center joining us there via Skype.